This week has been a week of Vanguard reveals that has really excited me, with the new Zorga Phantom on Thursday, as well as Berucrea reveal from Tuesday. So I really just wanted to discuss the actual reveals, what my thoughts were on it, so hence why I'm sitting in front of this camera right now speaking to you all. It's maybe a little late by the time it gets out, but it is the time I'm filming, the week of these reveals. So I just want to start with Zorga because this is the one I'm probably most excited about. Love Stoike as Zorga, so I was super excited for this, and I feel like it didn't disappoint. So let's just kind of start going through the cards, and I really want to focus first on this card here, the Demonic Beast Alchemic's Body Übermensch. So a token unit, Demonic Beast Alchemic's Body, and a Fantôme, which is kind of cool. This artwork looks so cool. So this is kind of the main center point of the new Zorga here. So standard kind of token clause here, but 3 effects. The first one here is continuous rearguard. This unit gets power plus 5,000 for each grade of your Vanguard. Second effect is auto rearguard circle once per turn. When this unit alchemixes, stand this unit, and this unit is in. And if this unit is in the back row, you may move it to a unit. Wow, I cannot speak. You may move this unit to an open front row rearguard circle in the same column. And then final effect is auto rearguard circle at the end of turn. Retire this unit, and this effect is mandatory. So, obviously, since it's a token unit, there's a few questions that this card presents here. For one, how do you generate it? 2, what is Alchemix? Because stand this unit sounds strong, but kind of depends on when Alchemix happens. How much does it cost? So let's just kind of go to actually break down that stuff. So first, I want to cover how do we even get this token? I think that's the biggest question here, and how much does it cost to get? It's actually from this card here, Regrain Biocreation Research Lab. Another token, looks really cool, and it has a few effects as well, standard token thing. So 2 effects. First one is you cannot ride a continuous order zone. You cannot ride grade 3 or greater cards without Zorga in their card name. And second effect is an act in order zone. Cost rest this card. Call a Demonic Beast Alchemic's Body Übermensch token to rearguard circle. So already once per turn we just get the token for no cost. That already sounds very strong. It's a free body on board that scales with your Vanguard's grade 2. Pretty good power. Like that means this guy on your first turn, when you have a grade 1, 5k, second turn 10k, third turn 15k, or once you're at grade 3. So big question now is, how do we get this token? How much does it cost? Kind of going down the chain here. That's where we get the grade 1 Regrain Security Ranker Chain, which, by the way, oh, it looks so good. Oh, I realize I'm covering the artwork. Hold on. I'll back out of that view. Where my camera's at. But that artwork looks so good. I love the Retrain Ranker Chain here. But it has one simple effect. Auto, when this unit is placed front by writing a grade 0, cost reveal a grade 3 with Zorga in this card name from your right deck and put a Regrain Biocreation Lab token into your order zone. So you just get the card for absolutely free, meaning that essentially for free, just by playing the deck, you get this token here every single turn. Sure, it goes away at the end of turn, but that already sounds absolutely crazy. It's just a body on board to apply pressure that scales very nicely. If you're going second on turn 1, you can call this as a 5k booster behind Vanguard, because if I remember correctly, yeah, just call it to rearguard, so it doesn't specify. So already just pressuring more than a 15k shield on your grade 1 turn. On grade 2, it's a 10k, meaning that you can either, again, use it to boost to kind of guarantee the hit from your Vanguard, or it can just be an attacker because it trades very well into your opponent's grade 1 or grade 2 Vanguard, forcing a 5k shield minimum. And once you're at grade 3, if you're going first, this is the 15k attacker. That's strong against a grade 2. That's a 10k guard inherently. Or it can just be used as a 15k token, which makes very nice numbers with both grade 2s. But if your opponent's already at grade 3, then it makes good numbers with 8k and 13k base. So grade 3s and grade 1s respectively. Though note with the Alchemix here, seems like you don't really want to call it behind Vanguard once you get to that well, that's spoilers. Once you get to Zorga, that will make a bit more sense. But alright, that's a very strong thing for this deck to be doing. I don't want to say it's broken because it doesn't necessarily help you win the game, but it's just a sustained resource that you will have every single turn throughout the game that does put meaningful pressure on the opponent. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's actually go over Zorga as the next key piece. I keep pulling this up like you can see it. You can see the artwork a bit there. But Zorga, this is the main way where we'll learn what Alchemix actually is. So, and it's through this first effect here. Auto Vanguard Circle. When this unit attacks, cost Counterblast 1. Choose any number of your Genome Gel rearguards with different card names. If you choose 2 or more, choose a Demonic Beast Alchemix Body Ubermensch from token on your rearguard circle, and it alchemixes with all the chosen Genome Gel. If your bind zone has 1 or more Crimson Moon cards, that Demonic Beast Alchemix Body Ubermensch token, and this unit both get power plus 5,000 till end of turn. And if you have 3 or more Crimson Moon cards, power plus 10,000 till end of turn instead of power plus 5,000. I mean, the Alchemix is essentially just stacking those Genome Gel rearguards that you chose underneath the Ubermensch token, as the reminder text there. And then its Phantom skill here is enact Vanguard Circle once per turn. For a cost of binding a Crimson Moon card from your hand, school, or drop, you get to choose one up to the same number of Genome Gels from your drop as the number of Crimson Moon cards in your bind zone and call them to rearguard circle. So really 2 things going on here. The first effect shows what Alchemix is, and it's just combining the Ubermensch token with Genome Gels from your rearguards, and that's Genome Gel Race. So we're looking for support cards with that race because nothing currently has it. And we'll go over that. Just combine them all into one, and then based on your Crimson Moons, you get some extra power. So kind of going back to the token here, that is how its effect triggers. For Counterblast 1 and combining this with at least 2 of your rear guards, you get to stand it, and it will move up to an attacker if it wasn't already in the front row, though notably in the same column, which is why you cannot call it behind Vanguard. So that's not very expensive. Counterblast 1 for a restand for a 4th attack is pretty standard, so that's already very good. The big thing, though, is that you're having to throw bodies into it 2 or more, so you're kind of inherently going -2. So we'll have to see what this deck has. Well, no, we don't even necessarily need to see. We see the Phantom skill here that lets us call those cards to make up for that. And that's actually a very powerful sustain skill. First turn you use it, call 1 for essentially free. That's powerful. Second turn, call 2 for free. And you can get up to call 4 for 3. So that's already, I'm seeing with Zorga, that it generates bodies on board for essentially free. So I'm not too worried about that cost to Alchemix there. And also the fact that this retires itself, which resets them anyway to recall with Zorga. So that's a nice succinct resource loop there to kind of fuel itself. But this is showing great sustain into the late game with these combination of skills, especially not costing anything to build, just that Counterblast 1 to restand. So already, like you got your clear offensive stuff, and you just have great resource generation for onboard pressure. So let's see what else this has, because I'm also noting here, this is what from reading these cards, that if stuff triggers on Alchemix, that is an opportunity to then proc additional card effects to kind of give a cascading effect to this deck to do more. So a lot of potential already from some really solid effects. Before we kind of get into the Genome Gels, I want to discuss the Regrain Creature Black Tears Husk Dragon, which looks so cool. And it has one effect as well on Vanguard. When this unit is rode upon by a grade 3 Zorga in its card name, you can Energy Blast 7 to look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up 2 cards without Sentinel from among them. Choose one of the revealed cards, put it to hand, discard the rest of the revealed cards. And if you did not discard a card, search your deck for up to 1 Crimson Moon card, discard it, and shuffle your deck. Search Crimson Moon only if you chose 1 card from the top 7, is the reminder text here. So this card's cracked, but this is a lot to process. Essentially what it's saying is you look at top 7, you choose 2 from among them, shuffle the rest back into the deck, or up to 2. Of those 2, 1 goes to hand, 1 gets discarded. But if you only added 1, since it was up to 2, instead you get to then go search your deck for a Crimson Moon and discard it. So essentially what this deck reads is you get from top 7, 1 card to your hand for Energy Blast, which is a great rate for that sort of effect, especially to hand. That's very powerful. And you get to guarantee set up a card of either a card of your choice from the top 7 or a Crimson Moon, which you do want for Zorga's effect. So this is just a great consistency card overall. This is quite an insane effect, if I'm going to be honest. Saw the reaction to this card being cack alert. It's a creative card because it's pretty much doing just a top 7 to add 1 to hand is already really, really strong, but then also just set up a Crimson Moon, insane. So already this deck is looking to be very powerful. And actually, I want to pull up Crimson Moon real quick just to get a refresher on what that card does, since this is so pivotal to what the deck is doing here. Crimson Moon. Let's see if I can find it. It's Crimson Moonlight. Yeah, that's the right one. Is it? Yeah, the double rare. So just a reminder, you can only play this if your Vanguard's a Phantom and is a grade 1, but all our ride line is a Phantom, so you can play it at any point. Look at top 5 cards of your deck, choose one card from among them, reveal it. If you did not reveal a card, shuffle your deck and draw a card. And if you revealed a card, perform one of the following, and then shuffle your deck. If you revealed a card that is a unit with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, call it to rearguard circle. If you revealed a Crimson Moon card, put it to your hand. And then it continues, this unit cannot be bound other than for the cost of your Phantom skill ability, and then the bind zone, this unit cannot be chosen or moved to other zones by any player's card abilities, and then in the damage zone, you can put it into drop and put the top card of your deck into your damage zone. Which is kind of neat. This actually can act as counter charge, which is very relevant for Zorga, actually. You can definitely take advantage of that for some free counter charge. Nothing too crazy here, just a good consistency card they can play as turn 1 just to start drawing cards, or build a board as well. So just a good card in general, so very welcome. Oh, I actually changed pages here, so we'll go back. So very good with the new reveals here overall, and now I gotta scroll all the way down. I should just open a new tab. It's my bad. There we go. And actually, we did get the same consistency card that Blagmire got with the Piercing Lover Margaret, so getting the actually Stoicheia guy, cycler back from DBT10 as the searcher here. And she has 2 effects, same exact thing as the Koglaflan that in Keter Sanctuary, where when this card is discarded from hand while riding from ride deck, if you have a Phantom Vanguard, you can either Soul Blast one or Energy Blast, so you search your deck for up to 1 Crimson Moon, reveal it, put your hand, and shuffle your deck. Phenomenal rate. You likely will want to be going for the Soul Blast 1 to get it. That's a bit better rate for on standard. And then when this unit is put on guard circle from hand, if you have a Phantom Vanguard, either Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card, just like the Gun Cyclers. So kind of like a dedicated Gun Cycler slash ride deck discard. Doesn't do anything on board, which I always find it a bit weird when unit cards don't do anything on board. But still, nonetheless, I think this is a solid consistency card to help the deck do what it wants to, and got one of that. At least in theory, it sounds good. We'll see if in practice it ends up sounding good. But okay. We got the basic stuff out of the way. Let's get into these genome gels to see what they do, because really from here, I think this is a good way to summarize so far. We have a really solid core with insane just body generation, multi-attack, and you've got Zorga, which scales to bring back cards. Just, you've got sustained offense very late into the game. So these genome gels really, how do they elevate such a strong basis? Because they don't really necessarily need to do too much, but it would be welcome to ensure this deck has some footing, because you really don't want bricks in deck. So let's kind of go through them. We'll just go through them in order. Creation, Demonic Beast, Bite Engraver, and as a genome gel and a Phantom. It's a little rat thingy, just kind of gloopy. Yeah, you guys can see it. Cool. So this card has 2 effects. Act Drop Zone. If your rearguard circle has a Demonic Beast Alchemist Body Ubermatch token, and you do not have a rearguard with the same name as this unit, you can Energy Blast you to call this card to rearguard circle, and it gets power plus 5,000. And then, when this card is Alchemixed, choose one of your Demonic Beast Alchemist Body Ubermesh tokens, and this card is Alchemixed too, and it gets power plus 10,000 till end of turn. This is only a rare. This is a really good card. For 1, Energy Blast 3 to bring it back from drop. That's, I think, a phenomenal effect. That's on rate, and it gains extra power, so it's a 13k booster attacker. For rare, that's already really, really good. And again, this deck is just having phenomenal board advantage generation. Like, it seems like the hand won't be too much of a concern. Maybe just time to call it some pieces. But otherwise, you don't need to commit more from hand to board. You can sustain it off of these alone. And the extra power will just be welcome for more offensive pressure. Next up, we got the Creation Demonic Beast, Shadow Eater Running Dog. Kind of reminds me of Shadow Cloak, which is really, really neat. These are so gross looking, but it fits the theme for sure. So this card has, 2 effects. There's the parsing. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, if your Ore Zone has a Regrain Biocreation Research Lab, cost Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to 1 normal unit, discard it, and shuffle your deck. And the second effect is when this unit is Alchemix, draw a card, then Counter Blast 1 to draw another card. This is also super solid, and it's a rare as well, and this is really, really good. Gray White, so you can call right away to get some deck fitting. Like, this is deck fitting immediately. You can tech these genome gels as well, since you've got such a great ability to bring it back through Zorga and their own effects. Just finding this card early just lets you run 4 copies of this and essentially toolbox for those other ones to set up and just try to loop them back to set up. That seems really good. It clears up deck space for other good cards. This seems like it has a lot of potential. And then Alchemix draw card, that's already great, because it's essentially converting stuff that you're cheating out onto board for either rate or no cost at all into, in this case, you'd probably bring this back with Zorga, but it replaces itself in hand essentially, and then you get the option to counterblast one to draw even more cards, generating you resources. That's like, again, that feels like it's compounding good effects, and this feels like an above rate effect, just essentially draw 2 for counterblast 1. And I get the idea is you're going -1, so you don't want to just cycle it for a counterblast, but when you have so many other effects that generate these guys for essentially free, it's hard to see this as anything but an above rate plus in the context of the deck. And then the final genome gel we got is Creation Demonic Beast Cranial Ring. Creepy guy in a flask here, kind of reminds me of My Hero Academia with Shigaraki in the tube. So here, this guy also has 2 effects. An auto from drop ability that when your Ubermensch, I'm so tired of saying the whole name, I'm just going to call it Ubermensch from now on, is placed on rearguard circle. If you do not have a rearguard with the same name as this unit, you may call this card to rearguard circle. And if you called by this effect and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Zorga in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000 till end of turn. Then auto, when this unit is Alchemix, choose one of your demonic Ubermensch that this is Alchemix 2, and it gets critical +1 till end of turn. Yet more ways to just generate bodies on board, and this one's for free. Just, oh my gosh, like, you get so much board advantage. It's crazy. And not having to use your resources so you can use them elsewhere. Just, geez, so many good effects here. The second effect, it's nice. Just an extra critical, help you push damage, strike for lethal a bit more easily. This one doesn't scream as too crazy because critical +1 feels more either early game relevant or just more situational. And to its credit, this is a free critical that can come out really early as soon as your first grade 3 turn. So it's definitely, I think, going to be good. I think in general though, since this deck is looking to go longer, cards such as the Running Dog feel a bit better because it generates you hand advantage to be able to survive, to take advantage of your ability to sustain your board long term. But the extra pressure is definitely welcome, and this first effect more than makes up for like the card advantage side of things as well. So again, just hitting more good stuff. And it's crazy to think, like I said, this card's good, and this is probably the weakest of the 3, and it's still good in a rare. Oh man, already so much good stuff. But that's not where this deck stops. Like, this already seems like a complete deck to me. You just run out with a bunch of generics, but no. They had to give it more cards, and I am not disappointed. So let's get into it right now. So I'm going to work my way down from the chipboard here. The Regrain Researcher, Flesh and Bone Tearing. So, Human Phantom. And this card has 3 effects, the first of which being an act in hand if your order zone does not have a card with the same name as this card and has a Regrain Biocreation Research Lab, and you did not put a card in your order zone this turn, put this card into your order zone and draw a card. So that's a lot of text. Essentially, you can only have one of this in your order zone. You need to have the Research Lab, so it's locked into the deck. That makes sense. And then finally, you just can't put multiple cards, which is relevant because the other researchers like the Hendrina and the Vortex Prober also have the actually same exact effect. So it's just saying you can't just toss these into your order zone to cycle a bunch of cards is what it's saying. But still, just hand cycle this into your order zone to draw one. That hand cycle feels good. It's extra consistency because it helps you dig deeper into your deck. But what does it actually do in the order zone? And that's where this second effect comes in. Act order zone once per turn. If you have a Vanguard Zorga in its card name, you can retire 1 or 2 of your rear guards to draw a card. And if you retire 2 cards for this cost, you countercharge 1. So this is resource generation. I'm actually going to finish reading this card. Just get it all there. Then auto drop when you Alchemix. If you do not have a rear guard with the same name as this card, you call this card to an open back or a rear guard circle, and at the end of turn, retire this unit. So it's just a booster behind your Ubermesh to make it even bigger. That wasn't already crazy enough. So this card, again, it reads good, and I love, this feels interesting. The Genome Gels with your Ubermesh fill up your board, so how do you make the supporting cards still feel useful? And throwing them into Research Lab, because the researchers in the lab to do stuff, I think is a really interesting way to explore. Like, design-wise, this feels so rich, and I really do like that. And in terms of just general card quality, this is good. Cycle to draw a card, and then from there, you just have an effect you can use once per turn every turn to cycle into more cards for some natural consistency and get a counter charge if you need it for your effects. And since there's so many ways to generate card advantage, it makes sense to be like, this card has the resources to fuel it, and it doesn't look like you're really going out of your way to fuel it either, which really good. Like by the time you get 3 of your Crimson Moons in your bind zone, like you can bring back the Cranial Ring and the Bite Engraver through their own effects, sack them for this, and then just bring them back with Zorga anyway. Oh, that collapsed. But then on top of that, it's just a nice little sweetener, just a bit, this final effect, just an extra little power behind your Uber Mesh when you go attack again. That's all I'd say about it. It's just a good effect on top of everything else. Like, I will say it does feel necessary because at only one copy, or at multiple copies, you only get this effect once, so if it does nothing else, it feels bad to run because you'd essentially have everything past the first copy would just be a dead card. So having this effect definitely feels good. It makes me feel more comfortable running this at multiple copies, even though really you only need 2. You need to find 1 to bind and just put 1 to drop. So I think resource ratios will be very interesting with this card and these other ones. So let's move on to the Hendrina here. She has a double rare. Love to see this one getting the phantom treatment of cards that used to support Zorga. Set 1 Zorga, run Hendrina to mill. So she's got the same first effect as the, what was this one called? The Flesh and Bone Tearing. To, if you don't have a card with the same name, have them put a card in your bind zone and have the lab, you can put it into the bind zone to draw a card. Not bind zone, the order zone, my bad. Then this does have a rearguard effect that when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Zorga in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle, and then you can Soul Blast one to look at top 3 cards of your deck, choose one from among them, discard it, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets an additional 2k. And then finally, its effect from Order Zone is if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Zorga in its card name, and your bind zone is 2 or more Crimson Moons, you can discard a card, and your Vanguard gets triple drive until end of turn. Holy cow. Granted, this isn't a plus because you have to discard a card, but like, you want to throw Genome Gels into your drop anyway. Or Crimson Moons, so you don't necessarily have to use them, and just gain triple drive, extra pressure. That's just good as well. I will say, I don't think this effect is particularly great, beside being just a big booster for Zorga. Soul Blast 1, top 3, that's pretty easy to whiff, but I guess, you know, not the worst. You can either just thin your deck more. It feels like the 15k booster is what seems most appealing to me about this card, not the actual discard, but it could be better than I'm giving it credit for in practice. Totally agree with that, or I could totally see that being the case. I'm very unsure ratio-wise where you want to run this, because just like the Flesh and Bone Tearing, you really only want to find 2 of it, so to consistently find it, you might be encouraged to draw more cards just to set it up, but past this one, if you really want the Vanguard booster and are facing retired decks, it definitely warrants running multiple copies to make sure you set up. So maybe it's a bit less awkward than, say, this one, where once you get your 2 in rotation, you're most likely fine. So I'm really curious about ratios with this card, with these cards, but since you're thinning your deck so much, like you have this guy thinning your deck, you've got the Black Tears Husk Dragon thinning your deck, might be a bit easier to achieve than justify running at lower copies than I think, and then you got the Crimson Moon to search it out anyway. So definitely a lot of factors at play, which suggests that these could be very successful, but until I actually sit down and playtest and people get to, I think it's a bit tough to make a real true judgment on how well do all these work and what ratios do you need. But okay, we got 2 more cards here for Zorga specifically. We got Regrain Researcher, Vortex Prober. This is actually a common that has 2 effects. The first effect is the same thing as the Hendrina and the Flesh and Bone Tearing, keep forgetting its name. To put to Order Zone, if you haven't put a card there, you got the lab and don't have a card with the same name to draw a card. And then in Order Zone, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Zorga in its card name and you did not bind a card with the same name as this card this turn, bind this card, choose up to the same number of your units with Crimson Moon, up to the number of Crimson Moons in your bind zone, and then you get power plus 5,000 till end of turn. So this essentially is a way you pretty much move it from Order Zone to bind zone to bolster your board based off the number of Crimson Moons. This doesn't read bad, like, to be honest. For a common especially, there's a lot of text for a common. Just card cycling and then additional power boost. But in the context of these 2, it is definitely the weakest of the bunch. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be needed running the deck, but it's certainly not bad either. That's the thing that's crazy to me. Like, this card isn't bad. It essentially is, you replace itself and give a bunch of things power. And so I could see it being run at maybe just 1, maybe 2 copies in the late game to bolster your stuff. Really not that bad, especially for a common. And the final card we have is Regain Security, Grudge Breaking. This one breaks the mold. It's just a simple continuous on Guardian Circle. If your zone has the Research Lab, this new gets shield plus 5,000. If your bind zone has a Crimson Moon card, it's shield plus 10,000 instead of 5,000. So it's a 10 or 15k card, which honestly, again, for a common, that's not terrible, just extra shield value. That being said, I think there probably wouldn't be better cards for the deck, so it's nothing to write home about. But overall with Zorga, like, there's a ton of crazy stuff in here. I really like the just theming overall of this. Combine the genome gels with the Uber mesh into a powerful secondary attack, proc additional effects. And then I love how they're tying in additional cards, recognizing that board space is a limiting resource here, and instead having these put themselves to the order zone, like they're going into the laboratory to do research and doing stuff from there. I think that's really, really cool. And I'm super excited to see what ratios end up being determined as optimal for this deck and how this deck ends up performing, because I really do think this deck has a lot going for it. I mean, just the free token every single turn already reads crazy, and I could definitely see this being a deck that likes to go long just because it's got such great ways to sustain bodies on board. I think the question is, can you generate enough hand advantage to be able to support that over the long run? So that's Zorga. Moving on to Berucrea. Thankfully we've got the nice slides that English prepared. And, well, we got Future Magic Caster Berucrea, nothing to write home about, standard starter. But I want to start really with the Apprentice Magic Caster Berucrea. So this grade 1 reads that when this unit is placed from riding the grade 0, you can Soul Blast 1, search your deck or hand for up to 3 magic cards with different card names. Put them into your order zone. If you search your deck, shuffle your deck. If you put 1 or more from your hand, draw a card. Already, this reads crazy. Soul Blast 1, deck thin 3? What? And if you end up not deck thinning 3, you just get to cycle a card from hand, which is also pretty good. Just what? I've seen stars that deck thin 2, but 3, or not even 2. Most of the time when they deck thin 2, it's from like a top 5 or top 7. This just searches your deck. You're starting with a deck with 3 less cards. What? But what do those actually do? Like those magic cards, because they're pretty important for this deck. So we got 3 here. Enhance Magic Starl King. So you can only run one of this in your deck. So you essentially only run the one and go and fetch it. And then in Order Zone, if you have a grade 1 or greater Vanguard with Magic Caster in its card name, you can rest this order, choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 5,000 till end of turn. You cannot rest any magic cards in your Order Zone other than by the ability of your unit with Magic Caster in its card name until the end of turn. So essentially what this sets up is that this gimmick of magic cards in your order zone, you'll only be able to use 1 per turn inherently via their own effect without the assistance of a magic caster's effect. So you might be able to stack them up, you can't just rest all 3 and get their effects, whatever they end up doing. In terms of the output, this is just incremental 5k. Like, it's not bad. It's definitely nothing crazy though. Next up, we got Growth Magic Vox Toll. So you can only have one of this in the deck as well, and is a grade 2. And in the Order Zone, if you have grade 2 or greater Vanguard with Magic Caster in its card name, you can rest this card to draw a card. And you cannot rest magic cards in your Order Zone other than the of your Magic Caster in its card name until end of turn. And this ability is lost until the end of this fight. So, well, let's finish reading this first. Then it's got a secondary Act Order Zone effect that if you have a grade 2 or Vanguard with Magic Caster in its card name, you can rest this card to draw a card, choose a card from hand, and discard it. And then the same clause where you cannot rest another magic card in your Order Zone other than by the ability of your unit with Magic Caster in its card name. All the magic cards the other one will have this effect. So this one reads, admittedly a bit stronger, but makes sense it's a grade 2. It's either just a one-time a +1, that is strong, just generate. So essentially, it's a bit delayed, but essentially what this means is the grade 1 is deck thin 3, draw 1. Like, what? It's even crazier. And then from here on out, it's just a hand cycle. But as you'll see, that's still very good in this deck, just extra consistency. And this deck does like to play from the drop, so discarding is not an issue. All in all, this one reads quite strong for a consistency card. Then we got Healing Magic Ex Lunis. So again, you only run one of it. And then in the Order Zone, when a unit would be called by this card's ability, that unit's auto ability does not activate from the call. And then in Order Zone, if you have grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Magic Caster in its card name, rest this card, choose a non-sentinel normal unit for your drop. You may call it to Rearguard Circle. You cannot rest any of your magic cards rest turn, same clause, except by your unit cards with Magic Caster in its name. So this is just a free revive each turn. This is obviously the strongest of the bunch. A free revival is very, very strong, and having it sustained, yeah. Now, granted, you don't get the on-plates auto abilities, and this feels more like a balancing thing, which is interesting, because usually a lot of cards are balanced. If they know that you can repeat it from your drop, they'll say specifically from hand. But this one, since it doesn't have a cost and is just a repeatable effect turn after turn, I can see why you might need the balancing factor. Regardless, very strong board card. This just like the Zorga, just you get a free body on board every single turn. That's kind of crazy. Definitely the strongest of the bunch, but okay. Where are you doing with these? Let's go Berucrea, the Great Magic Caster of Eternity, Berucrea, the Grade 3, and this will kind of all tie them together. So when you cast a Grand Magic Order or activate an ability of a magic card, or a magic in your order zone, choose one of your units and gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. Then act Vanguard Sword once per turn, cost Soul Blast 1, rest a magic from your order zone, choose the activity of your magic rest for the cost, and activate without paying the cost. And then finally, at the end of battle, this unit attacked once per turn on Vanguard Circle. You can counter blast 1 to stand this unit gets drive, and its drive becomes 0 until end of turn. So, okay, quite a few things to break down here. For one, for a Soul Blast, you get to use the effect of another magic card. So you're essentially doubling up on magic cards for your turn. That's pretty good. You know, you just get to res 1, and then either you can give a unit 5k, or you can choose to draw and discard 1 if you deem that a bit more beneficial. And then from there, each time you do that, it's getting 5k, so you can distribute a total of 10k in power for the turn outside this Grand Magic, which we'll get into. And this final effect, originally I read it, I was like, oh, this just feels like non-clear all over again. Counterblast stands something. But then I realized, I was thinking about it a bit more design-wise, and the real appeal of this deck seems to be Berucrea and using these magic cards and just kind of generating incremental advantage turn after turn with these cards, and that does seem pretty good. Like, that's the main focus. But none of them actually generate much offensive pressure outside of gaining some power, so it probably was just one of those things of we have this cool concept here, but it doesn't necessarily give us a lot of offensive pressure, and Vanguard is a very tempo-oriented game. You need to be providing offensive pressure, or else what are you doing? It's not set up like something like Magic, where you can have such a diverse pool of different play styles, and you can play like super hardcore control. Vanguard's very much just, their version of control is very much, I can just outlast my opponent and play into the late game. But still need to be providing great pressure and tempo on the opponent. So that's what this, it just feels like a sweetener effect. Like, let's just give this deck a 4th attack for a counter blast. And I'm honestly fine with that. Is it the most exciting? No, but it does something interesting elsewhere, and that to me is what matters. So again, just really good incremental advantage turn after turn to keep pressuring the opponent. But let's see what this Grand Magic is. This is actually the one I kind of showed here. Eternal Grand Magic, Sergei Lejuis. Probably butchering it, and I apologize for that. This is actually a normal order, and this card can be played from drop and played if you have a Vanguard Berucrea in its card name, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, and your order zone has 3 or more different magics. Such a long condition. But you bind this card, and your Vanguard's drive does not decrease by that unit's effect until end of turn. What? So let me break down the condition first. Essentially, you need Berucrea. Your opponent needs to be at grade 3. And that last one feels a bit redundant, but I guess it gives them space if they ever want to create a Berucrea in the future, but not have her bind 3 magic cards and not let this be playable. So essentially it's just, your opponent's Vanguard needs to be a grade 3 or greater, and you need to be playing it in this deck and doing what the deck wants to do. The main thing is that you can play this from drop, so you actually don't need to go -1 for it, which is crazy. Again, we have that card that draw a discard, so you can just discard this, play it from drop. It's just free advantage. Like, this is free advantage. Your Vanguard's drive doesn't drop. This is a +2 in form of drive checks. This crazy card here. Very exciting, but I'm surprised that you can just play this from your drop for no cost. Yeah, nothing else to really say about that. So incremental advantage, very powerful order card with double Vanguard 2 drive checks is crazy. Oh, these broke. Hold on. Let me refresh this. Yeah, that's... I don't have words for that. There we go. Cool. It's back now. So I skipped over the grade 2, so let's go back to this because that's important. When this user opponent by grade 3 or greater, create this card name, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose 2 cards from one of them, discard them, shuffle your deck. Deck thin 2! This deck is just deck thinning like crazy, and you're getting additional drive checks to hit triggers? Holy! And obviously, like, it depends if you have other stuff that don't mind putting in drop, but we obviously find 2 rare magics, you're happy. So that seems pretty good as well. Though notably, obviously this isn't necessarily generating card advantage. You're kind of giving up card advantage early on to gain card advantage later through the Grand Magics. We'll see if that pays off, but it's not like there aren't plenty of cards that help you actually catch up. And so far, this deck doesn't use energy. Guncyclers. Pretty easy way to do it. And you're deck thinning 3, making it more likely you can see them. Okay, so I focus on the core of this, and so far, this is a very solid core by the looks of it, at least in my opinion. But let's see the supporting cards. We've got Tree Chop, Bow Hunter, Treeta, and drop when you play a Grand Magic order if you do not have a Rearguard the same name as this card. You may call this to Rearguard Circle, and if you call this unit gets power plus 2k. And then continues on Rearguard Circle if you have Greater Vanguard Berucrea and its card name, this unit gets intercepted, can intercept from the back row. And third effect, when this unit is put on Guard Circle, Energy Blast unit, this unit gets shield plus 10,000 till end of that battle. There's energy use, but it's really just to give you extra shield value. So there's some sustain to play a long game. Actually, hold on, I was loop back to the first effect. This seems to be their favorite thing, just calling from drop. And this is for free. Slight tangent, I don't love all these cards that can just bring themselves back from drop. It feels like the effect is being overused. It's very pervasive throughout this deck. This set specifically, and in general, like even before this, there's sprinkling of that. But looping back to what this card actually does, again, this is very good. Once you're playing those Grand Magic orders, granted it's a bit in the late game, but it just gives you such great survival. Bring this back. It's 10k attacker or booster. You throw it behind Vanguard to give it a 10k booster. It can then intercept from back there and acts as additional shield for an additional cost. That seems pretty good. And you can selectively mill this, so you don't even need to run a super amount of this, though. You could always run more just to get the intercept shield plus 10k. So this card strikes me as great sustain. There's still that I see that gap when you're riding up where the opponent can just kind of overwhelm you. But the longer the game goes, it seems like it's such great tools to play that long game and sustain. Then we've got another double here, the Amiable Fairy. When this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if you have a Vanguard Berucrea in its card name, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose one card from among them, discard it, and shuffle your deck. So this is free deck thinning. That reads pretty good, but let's finish up with this second effect first. Once put on Rearguard Circle, when this unit attacks, if you have a Great Vanguard Berucrea in its card name, and this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle from drop this turn, this unit gets power plus 15k until end of turn. So this is obviously what we want to be calling off of the Grade 3 Magic set order, because this is a 25k attacker, so big beater. And then of course you can always just play this down early, like it doesn't check your Vanguard's grade, so this is just a great way to further thin your deck. Man, yeah. So this is at least early game offense. You're not necessarily generating card advantage, but it is offense, further deck thinning to just make your deck super potent in the late game. Like I'm clearly seeing the vision here. And then finally we've got the Mythish of Eternity, Nilsvig. Wow. First try there. Nilsviger. Fisrugger. I'm not going to try it again. It's a mouthful. I'm not good at these names. Apologize for mispronouncing that. This card has essentially 3 effects in masquerading as... Well, 1 effect 3 effects masquerading as 1. That's correct. So first off is Contagious. If you have a Berucrea in its card name, it gets all the following. So it just gets the 3 effects. So let's see. This unit cannot be affected by the Contagious ability of Healing Magic Ixlunas in your order zone. So if you remember, Ixlunas, too far, and I need to refresh again. But Ixlunas was the grade 3, and what it did was it had the continuous effect that anything placed does not get its on auto effects when it is placed. And I said it's a balancing thing. This card just ignores it. I find it kind of funny because that kind of tells me that they found that you could potentially, since it's a free order, you could abuse this, but they wanted the specific exception to be the Mythish, so let's just give an effect that makes it the exception. It's just very blatantly written there. That's just kind of funny. It's extra text that can feel weird, but I'm sure there's a reason they came to it. Then auto, when the scene is placed on Rearguard Circle, cost card boss 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card Berucrea in its card name or 1 Grand Magic from among them, reveal it, put into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you not reveal a card, draw a card. Hand generation, like Persona Ride Searcher, can find the Grand Magic, or it can just be a simple card draw for counter boss. That's on rate, feels good. When your Great Vanguard attacks, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. This triggers both sides of Vanguard attack, so it ends up getting plus 10k. So this is just solid card. Like, it seems like the ideal card. Well, I shouldn't say the ideal card you want to bring back, because obviously this guy's 15k, so it gets a bit bigger. But it's also a good card to option 2 call, both from hand and from drop off of that card, just to be able to, extra consistency to deck thinning. This deck just turbo deck thins, and it's just a big attacker. So that is actually all the cards from this. And my conclusion of all of this is, I can't say for sure that this fully comes together in a cohesive deck. It seems like it lacks early hand advantage, but there's so much deck thinning. Gotta get through all this again. There's so much deck thinning. You get clear incremental value through these magic cards, and I really do like the mainly the Ixalanus and the Vox Toll seem really good, and this one just if you end up having it. Support cards read pretty good. It's kind of hard to say, do they cover what this deck needs it to, and then what generics are out there that cover it. But all in all, this seems like such a solid base for a deck, and I think it's interesting what they're trying to explore with it as well. And I also really like this is clear that they can print a Magic Caster Rearguard and give it the ability to cast these magic cards as well. Like there's the option. It doesn't say your banner, it just says a unit. So there's clear room for this deck to grow as well. So this makes me super excited to see the future of this deck. So all in all, as I say, this was an exciting week of reveals, which I think that it's interesting design. There's interesting things to kind of discover, and I think Zorga's a bit harder to parse than Berucrea. I think it's a bit easier to see the line with Berucrea. There's also less cards, but everything there just feels like rich and interesting. But also, I'm really curious to see how this ends up playing out, specifically in the meta, because these decks have some crazy effects in them. Just clearly above rate to a lot of stuff that feels a bit out of place from reveals prior to this set. So, which makes me even more curious to see how these end up performing overall. But that's all I have to say on these. Now I want to hear from you all. What do you think about Berucrea and Zorga and the cards that they reveal? I really want to hear from you all down in the comments below. And with that, I'm going to head out of there. For those of you that listen to this, thank you so much. I really enjoyed just kind of yapping and sharing my thoughts. Good outlet for me. And I will see you in the next one.